There we go. A little bit of culture before we start tonight.
I appeared to be on my own for a few seconds. I was like, oh!
It's technical. The old gremlins are all over the place tonight. But
he took over. Like, where is he? Oh!
No. It's the reason why. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Interesting Modelling Company Midweek Live. Apologies for the lack of poster today. That's simply because my Apple Magic keyboard on my iMac kind of lost its magic, and it just isn't working. So unfortunately, I can't do any photoshopping shenanigans. So no poster, I'm afraid. But a new keyboard is being
about how Apple lost its magic for me a decade ago. But we'll move
right. You're too far away from your microphone there, Drew. About 600 billion light years away from your microphone.
Really?
Yeah. You were just like that. So
how's
sit
that?
Closer. No, sit closer to the screen, man. For goodness sake, you're not at school now, so that's better. Anyway, welcome to
set up. I haven't actually moved any closer to the screen.
Thank you. That's better. Welcome to tonight's program. As ever, we'll just be winging it essentially. Although Drew's going to be very professional tonight and actually be talking about a couple of kits that he's got, which is terribly exciting and always very, very interesting. I've been doing bits on the Whirlwind over the last couple of days, so we've got some wheels together and some cockpit bits. Admittedly, I haven't been doing that much in the workshop because of other projects and things, but I am enjoying this project immensely, even though, as I commented today about these little radio boxes, and that is Special Hobby put the sprue attachment points in just the wrong place. They could have put them to a side, and then you just cut them and then clean them off the mounting surface. Because you have there's like a little kind of raised lip on the end there. I don't know if you can see that now. There's a little raised lip just on the end there. They put it on and just offset from that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I find quite often these days that you see people complaining about the style of sprue attachment point these days, where it's not actually intruding onto the component at all. It's all on the edge. And you see people complaining about that because it means the parts don't fit. Well, they do fit. You just have to trim that off, and it means you don't do any trimming on the actual part. It's the perfect solution, and people complain about it. I'm always a bit...
Well, Tamiya do that all the time.
Yeah, Tamiya do it all the time, and most of the Chinese companies do it now as well, and Academy as well, and it's the perfect solution because you're just cleaning up an edge you'd clean up anyway.
Yeah, but as I say, it's not spoiling my enjoyment of the kit. You have to make these observations, especially if there are people out there who want to buy and build this kit. You do have to make these observations and pass them on so that people are aware that there are little things that need to be watched out for in terms of.
I think again we need to reiterate that it's a limited run kit. It's the very top end of it, but it's still it's still going to have little foibles that require the modeler to get involved.
Modeler input required, I think, is the phrase. We could actually we can have that as like a T-shirt, couldn't we? Modeler input required, and in fact, people last. Oh, here we go. More pop culture stuff here. In fact, I'm actually surprised Drew didn't get this last week. Was our cover image last week is, of course, the Colossus computer from the film Colossus: The Four-Bin Project, 1970. Which I think, as you agree, Drew, that's an awesome film.
I think, as the kids of today would say, it's well good, isn't it?
It's a brilliant film. But yeah, we should have that. We should have a T-shirt with a kind of like what looks like the Colossus logo, but with a slightly modified kind of centerpiece with the Interesting Modelling Company logo on it, and then underneath it says Modeler in that kind of 1970s computer writing.
Oh yeah,
Modeler input required. Not warm. There is another system. ... Yeah, ... Yeah, actually, let me just get a pencil there a second. I'm going to sketch that out. It's a good idea. Actually, I think that's. I'm gonna once I got my new Apple Magic keyboard, I will actually mock that up
That's going to be the first official interesting modelling company T-shirt.
I think that will be. But that keyboard has had 10 years of projects going through it. 10 years of Airfix projects going through it, certainly.
Saying it doesn't owe you anything.
Sorry?
You're saying it doesn't owe you anything.
It doesn't owe you anything. Well, it owed me at least one day's work today, but never mind. Anyway, let's just have a quick run through the hellos to everybody who's joined us this evening. Hello to Dave Swindle, Paul Milligan, Andy Brennan, Douglas Hunter, Darren McGuinness, Pavel Krupovich, Lee Souter, Ofer Cohen, Rob Monfort, Anthony Bird, Marino, Dougal McWoogle. There are two favourite people there together. That's amazing. Jerry Doyle, Dave Mummery, Yoav Afreti, Mike Williams, Stephen Pryor. Hello all. Now, let's cut to the chase, which is actually an awesome third track off of a Rush album. So now all you can hear is ding, 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 ding. Yeah. You got a couple of models you want to talk about. So do you want to dive in there and start talking about
Well, absolutely. So I'm going to sit properly forward now. Hopefully you can still hear me. I've been talking to Andy Hills last week or so and sort of switching all of my... excuse me a second. Stop throwing things around, Gro. Be a professional.
This is Barry levels of CSO here.
So I've been moving all of my online orders to Andy at Antics in the last week or two, so that, it seems stupid to do anything but put the business his way because he can get everything I need. And with that, yesterday he told me that had turned up and one was in the post and it turned up today. So this is, whereas, I know you and Spencer are huge fans of what model art do. I'm becoming that way with ICM now. ICM just don't seem to be able to put a foot wrong with everything they do in sort of in modelling in various scales. There's Antics. I mean, basically, if it's available in the UK, Andy can get it for you. And we'll generally do as good a price as anywhere else on it. So I just shifted all of my stuff to Andy, and he'll sort of feed it through to me as the year goes on. But yes. So ICM announced a couple of drone kits this year, 48 scale drones, the Firebee drones and stuff from the 50s, 60s, and 70s at the US.
Which I believe Spencer and I discussed on one of the Sunday shows a couple of months back.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I must have missed that one. But they've now started being released. So if I bear with me, so. The first one that's been released is this one, which is a little KDA one. Now, this is from very early on. This is sort of 1950 and through the 50s, used as targets and stuff like that, carried on Invaders to start with, and then Hercules and some other aircraft as well. And so this comes as a little, as you can see, the package is very, very small. There's 2 sprues in it. You've got the overall sprue here, which is basically the entire drone on one sprue. Wings in halves, and to which you just add tail parts, the interior, the jet engine and stuff. A really, really quick build. This is one that you could build between other builds without ruining your appetite, so to speak. But you look up sort of close to these sprues, and you can quite clearly see the kind of quality we're getting from ICM these days. Very slightly textured finish, but certainly nothing that I haven't painted gloss over without any trouble. And you can see the panel lines themselves are absolutely consistent. And beautifully rendered, and that generally goes for everything they do. All their surfaces, it doesn't fade in and out when it goes around curves and stuff like that. It's just that this is a kind of detail that ICM are doing these days. So you look at some of the other stuff, like there's a fairing that goes on the spine there. And bearing in mind this is less than an inch long, even in 1/48 scale. I just think you can see the kind of detail that ICM are getting. Again, you can see these panel lines going around the curves at the rear here, just completely consistent. And this this panel detail, a strop or something along the back there, absolutely perfectly rendered and molded. So I'm not even sure how much this is, because Andy hasn't told me how much I owe him yet. But I think it's about £10 or £12, something like that. I'm sure Andy will be in to let us know how much it is. And the second sprue is just a little trolley for it, so you can mount it as it would be, waiting to be loaded onto an aircraft. A couple of parts on this one are marked not for use, and that is these parts here, or this part here. And I'm fairly certain that is the wing pylon to mount it to an Invader. I know ICM have announced a drone carrying Invader for some point in this year, which will presumably have a pair of these drones in it. And that's what that pylon is for. Quite a simple decal sheet, because there's really not a lot on them for one of the first prototypes, and then a couple of in-service ones, all in various shades of yellow and red and white. £16. £16. There you go. So yeah, it's just I'm really impressed, and I continue to be hugely impressed with what ICM are delivering to us these days. The detail is just great. £16, and it's going to be a fairly quick, that's a weekend model without a shadow of a doubt. That is a model that could be assembled over the course of an evening or two, and then you get to the fun bit with that one, which will be starting to paint it, because I know I didn't take any pictures of the instructions, but I'll just show you. Hopefully you can see that. A variety of very bright color schemes for it. Based on there's a Firebee that will be coming out, the later model with the fast one with the pointed nose and stuff. That's due sort of any day now. So yeah, if you're looking for something a little bit different but still definitely an aircraft, I couldn't recommend it highly enough. I've built a few ICM kits over the last couple of years, and they're some of the best kits on the market these days. They're just absolutely fantastic. Do you want to go straight on to the second one, John?
Actually, I'm just going to try and I'm just calling up here. Bear with me a second. I was just going to say, yeah, go on to the second one. We can come back to the. I've just found the ICM catalog online. That's why, but
right.
We can come back to that. But no, that your next one, I'm just actually queuing up. I'm just actually queuing it up here so that. Yeah. Talk about the next one then.
Talk about the next one. So this is. Let's zoom this in a little bit. So this has been out. What has this been out? A couple of months now. Sort of 2 or 3 months. I got a couple of these delivered the other week, and this is a little SF260 from Special Hobby. We've had kind of a positive glut of these this year, with KP also releasing a variety of these in 70-second scale. Special Hobby releasing a couple of 70-second scale ones, and there's also a 48 scale one, at least one to come, I think, from Special Hobby at some point in the year. So this is a little trainer aircraft that's used worldwide by an awful lot of people, a lot of civilian ones as well. There's quite a few of them used in America for sort of Top Gun experience flights, sort of things, for dogfighting, as you would with a little piston aeroplane. Tiny little aeroplane. This, I think I paid about £8 or £9 each for these. So that gives you an idea. Normally Special Hobby stuff starts at about £13 or £14. So this is significantly cheaper than even their normal ones. Apologies, I didn't take any pictures of this because I wasn't aware I was reviewing it or giving a look at it until about 10 minutes ago. So, instruction sheet there. A really, really simple little model, which, like that drone I've just commented on, should not really be any more than a couple of evenings worth of work. You're going to spend more time, I would suggest, painting this model than you are actually building it, and a variety of absolutely fantastic color schemes for it. That Italian one with the grey and the black is actually growing on me the more I look at it.
Do you know what? I was just going through the downloaded the PDF of the instructions for this, and that's on the header page. And I started scrolling through the schemes here because, as you say, you've got a Venezuelan one in silver, a Uruguayan one in white and red. You've got that gaudy Belgian one. But that Italian one, I like that.
It's very restrained but classy, isn't it? It's a really nice, elegant scheme. Although I have that said, I do really like the Belgian one as well. I do like the Belgian one because it's very similar to that one of those crop dusters I did around Christmas, in that it's overall yellow with red highlights in almost all of exactly the same areas. And I kind of think, would they make a nice sort of a nice pair next to each other?
Yes, I think you should. I think you should build that. I think you should build that one, and then when I get a hold of one of the special hobby ones, I'll build the Italian one. There you go. That's the division of labours, all sorted. Excellent. It's all official.
The decals. Oh dear. The decals look great here, don't they? Unfortunately, they're the new style Edouard decals.
Count me out.
Which means yes. If I can swap my swap to the close up, and hopefully you can catch that. They're not printed as sharply, anywhere near as sharply as Cartograph that you would normally see from them or similar. They're a bit woolly around the edges. They've got a lot of carrier film, and then those new style Edouard ones where the decal film should peel off when it's dry, but it's all a bit hit and miss. It's a real shame because you've got a beautiful set of markings, a beautiful range of markings, I should say, and they're those, quite frankly, nasty new Edouard style ones, although I will be checking, see how they work. Tiny little piece of etch there for a couple of wing fences, which I obviously need to pack away, and then the clear canopy there, which is really beautifully done. Very, very clear indeed. Beautifully molded. So you've got one light and one canopy, and that's it for the clear sprue. And then there's three other sprues. You've got this this sprue here, so you can see really against my hand just how small this model is. It's about sort of the size of like a Cessna 172 or a Scottish Aviation Bulldog, that sort of size. You know, very, very small aeroplane. Even the wings are in one piece. There's no upper and lower wing halves. They're just molded in one piece. Couple of seats there. And a secondary sprue with all the accessories on it. So you've got two different noses there with very, very slightly different detail, not terribly different. You've got three different instrument panels. 1, 2, 3, all with different detail on them. See around here, there's maybe a little bit of flash on some of the parts, but it's yeah, you can see there. Look, little bit of flash, but nothing too taxing. A few different styles of main wheel there. Tip tanks. And then a very, very small sub sprue with just a few aerials and things on it for different variants. Like I say, I think it's available for under a tenner, and this is proper full injection molded, full long run technology that Special Hobby have used for this one. So this one will be around for a long time. It's not one of those ones that's just going to be produced on a limited basis and then disappear. Again, I think beautiful little subject, isn't it? It's a really.
You know what? Just as you were trying to describe the size of it, the words that were forming in my mouth were Scottish Aviation Bulldog, which you then instantly said, which then also got me thinking. Oh, imagine that, a Special Hobby 72nd scale Scottish Aviation Bulldog.
It'd be nice, wouldn't it? It'd be nice. I mean, the Airfix kit's best years are very much.
I'm afraid they are very much behind it now.
They are very much behind it. So yeah, something, you know, a little kit of that, and the Saab 17 supporter as well, which is very, very Saab 17 Saab. But that little twin seat piston trainer that the Swedes used, and the Pakistanis as well, I believe, used it. But all of a very similar kind of style and layout, really. Although I think the 260 is the pokiest of them. It's the one that's, you know, it's the most manoeuvrable and the nimble little one, but all used for basically the same basic trainer role. And a really nice subject for Special Hobby to choose, and one that I don't think many people were expecting. It really came as a bit of a sort of surprise. And I will say that having looked at the AZ or KP ones, I wish they'd just settle on one name for their company. They release stuff under both titles, and it's exactly the same. Everything else is the same except for the name on the box. But I've compared this kit to theirs, and there's just no competition. There's just absolutely no competition. And I don't want to. I mean, I don't want to publicly put them down too much, but when the difference in quality between the two is that stark, and I suspect the Special Hobby one is probably cheaper as well.
Yes. The thing that, sorry, I'm just getting reminded to plug my Mac in here. Whoops a daisy. The thing that astonished me when I had a look at both of them is the KP were showing off some very polished CAD renders for their little Seer. When I actually looked at the kit, how can I work? It kind of reminded me of a Pegasus kit.
Yeah,
right?
it feels like an early run kit from the late 80s or early 90s.
But all the detail looked like it was hand scribed. I'm not saying it was, but it belied the slickness of those CAD images that I'd seen. It all looked uneven and a bit, you know, I don't know what was going on there, but I just remember thinking that's a shame because, you know, the choice of color schemes was fantastic. The packaging, you can't fault it.
They've done the turboprop variant as well, which Special we haven't done as yet.
Everything about that package was excellent, apart from the one thing, which was the kit. Yeah, and it's odd you mention the decals because these are the ones for the Whirlwind. These are proper.
They're cartograph, aren't they?
Yeah, proper cartograph.
You know, the irony being is that when I build my one, the vast majority of those I will mask and spray rather than use the decals. Because it's 32nd scale, it's going to be quicker, you know, it's going to be easier and better to do it that way. Whereas on the little Seer, you know, I'm more or less limited to using the kit decals, and they're not great.
But isn't that ironic that this Whirlwind is probably going to have a shorter production run in the long term, but it gets proper decals. The little Seer is full on industrial steel injection molding for the long term. And it gets these kind of super Alps decals, I think is the best way of calling them.
I really, they look inferior on the sheet.
Yeah,
and that kind of carries straight through to when you use them. And if you get it wrong peeling that film off, you get it really, really wrong, and the decal's ruined. Or you can leave that film on there, and what you've got is a thick, raggedy edge around the decal. They are really not good. Really
actually, I think it's worth a recap because Marino says, "What is this Edward decal controversy? I've only heard of it briefly." So, do you want to do a quick kind of recap just to explain what it is? What it is?
Basically, about a year, 18 months ago, Edward largely stopped using Cartograph for whatever reason, expense or whatever. Cartograph are a huge concern now, and I know that a lot of people have trouble getting them to do their stuff because they're just backed up with work all the time.
Let me qualify that. When Drew says they're a huge concern, he means they are a large company, not that they are a big worry. Just in case the English doesn't translate well there. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
A huge commercial concern, so Edward have always done their own decals to a degree, and Edward's decals used to be actually quite nice. Okay, they could be very thin and sometimes a little bit woolly on the printing, but they performed fine. And then, sort of about a year ago, they quietly switched to a new production process, and didn't really tell anyone. We've pressed this. They switched to a new manufacturing technique, didn't really tell anyone, just started putting them in the kits, and soon enough people were going, what is going on here? And basically, if you look at the decal, never used to be, and it appears like they put the ink down first and then put the varnish over the top of the ink. And that means that when
that's how normal decals are done, Drew.
I was under the impression it was trapped between layers of varnish.
What was trapped between layers of varnish?
Well, the ink.
No. You described them. You described the Edward ones as the inks going down first and the varnish going over.
I thought on a normal decal it was varnish, ink, then varnish again.
No,
Right.
it's inks. It's onto your gummed paper, inks, then the varnish layer. The varnish layer.
Okay, Edward haven't changed the order of doing it from anybody else, but they've managed to make the carrier film just massively thick.
But it's a different process, though, isn't it? They're not decals. They're not decals that you cut off. You don't soak them in water, then slide them off onto the glossed surface. These are ones a bit like those Clearfix decals a few years ago. You you put the decal with its paper on the model.
No,
not even that.
No.
Right.
They are a conventional decal, in that you soak the decal in water, slide it onto the model, and then pat any excess out. But they don't respond very well to softening solutions. They've got a big raggedy edge to the carrier film, which is really difficult to hide under varnish. And once they're dry, theoretically, you can peel the carrier film off, like you do with HGW stencil decals and things like that. With the HGW stuff, it works beautifully. It's absolutely flawless. With these, it's rather less so. You risk pulling up bits of the ink as you pull the film off. The film will tear. Then people say you can use a little bit of tape to pull the carrier film off. It's basically, they've added a whole lot of guesswork to getting your decals done properly, and a whole lot of gambling. And they didn't tell anyone that they changed the process. And then for about 6 months, they insisted on telling people that they're just normal decals, just use them as normal decals. And then in the last month, they've done this thing on their own. Edward have done a short spiel on their own website / newsletter about how to peel the carrier film off. It's this fairly typical Edward thing of continually moving the goalpost with a process that hasn't really worked. And yeah, I'm not a fan, as you can probably tell. The downside is, John, that it means that when, whereas before I would look at a new Edward boxing for the colour schemes in the box and possibly order it based on that, now there's no point.
Well,
because you're just going to get inferior. You're going to get inferior decals you'll be looking to replace anyway.
Yeah, I've got to say, my enthusiasm for that little sear in the Italian markings has now somewhat been tempered by the fact that if the decals are unusable, what's the point? I'll just build something else.
Yeah.
And
as Dave says, a lack of decent aftermarket decals these days. It's changed from when we were kids, hasn't it? Decals were just there, and they just remained in ranges for years. And if you wanted to, if it was 1987 and you wanted to pick up that set of microscale decals that had been printed in 1972, they would still be available somewhere. They'd still be in print. Nowadays, it's kind of like they do a 500 off of a set of decals. If you don't get them in the first week, you're done.
Well, yes, that's certainly true with Vingter decals, Nils Masterthreads range of excellent decals. Is that he does them, and when you've missed them, you've missed them.
Yeah. It's the same with just about everybody these days. Two Bobs, Furball, all Fighter Town, all of these people are doing fantastic decals. Caracal, they're all doing fantastic sheets. But if you don't go, I might need that at some point in the future, you're out of luck. So you basically have to have a bit of a crystal ball when a new sheet is released to decide whether you're going to want to build a model of that 4 years down the line.
See, Dave mentions decent aftermarket decals these days. We've a few exceptions notwithstanding, which we already had just now. I would add to those the exceptions also being Dutch decal, who are absolutely superb. Daco, Danny Cormans, again, just a peerless range of decals, and model art, Jean-Pierre Desprez.
Yeah, there's plenty of there are plenty of fantastic decals out there. But
I would say there are plenty of decals out there, but the ones that you could pick up a sheet and know that what you're getting is well researched and accurately drawn, it's down to a handful. It's just barely scraping double figures.
Yeah, I mean, I would say there are a reasonable range of decal companies in the United States doing absolutely stellar work, but on quite a limited subject range. So if you want to build a 48 scale Phantom or a 48 scale Tomcat, you're in luck. You've got there are decals everywhere from these from some of these US manufacturers who are doing absolutely phenomenal levels of research on what they're producing, but then they won't do them in 72nd because 72nd doesn't sell in the US. And Caracal are pretty much an honourable exception to that, who run a pretty happening 72nd scale decal line. So it seems like there are many more decal manufacturers around these days, but it's also fragmented the market a lot more.
It's a very fluid market, if you'll pardon the pun.
Although I would say I would give one shout out to an Asian manufacturer. Do you know what? I think they're from possibly Korea. A company called DXM, who are doing their decals are all printed by Cartograph, so you know the quality, and they're all fantastic. And they're kind of picking they're doing the 72nd scale stuff that the American guys are only doing in 48 scale. So lots of Tomcat markings coming out and stuff like that, and they're very, very, very well researched, beautifully produced, and you can order direct from their website as well. So if you're looking for fast jets and things, Google DXM and give them a look, because they're doing some great subjects in 72nd these days. Cut Then Ad as well, Russian company. Cut Then Ad. they're doing some really nice esoteric stuff. You know, some of the oddball Vietnam schemes for fountain intruders and things like that. And they're another one, well worth looking. I think they're Russian. There's loads out there. You just got there's no. It's difficult to keep track of it all. Really.
Tell me about it.
It's virtually impossible, isn't it? You know, so you kind of like I spend months looking for a set of markings, and somebody says, "Well, have you seen these?" Oh, right, I didn't even realise they. But you know, they've only been released in the last few months or something like that. It seems an odd thing to complain about, doesn't it? Living in a golden age where we're positively swamped with options.
It is. We've often spoken about this. It is that weird dichotomy of overall the market for plastic model kits, you know, in the last 40 years or so has contracted considerably. And now we're into the second decade of the 21st. No, we're in the third decade of the 21st century now, aren't we? Third decade of the 21st century. And the number of manufacturers and the rate and speed of releases it makes the 1970s look positively kind of sloth-like, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And yet it's a fraction of the market. Now, what we have to factor into that is it's a fraction of the market-ish, but unlike the 1970s and the 80s and the 90s and the early part of the noughties, there's a whole new market has emerged. There's a whole new country has emerged that has discovered model making as a hobby, but has invested in model making as a manufacturing industry.
And there's 1.4 billion of them.
Yeah, which is of course China.
Yeah.
So it could be that actually the market for modelers is actually now going up again. We just don't know, because there could be, you know, it could be that if we measured the number of modelers in China at the moment, they could actually outweigh everybody else.
The world put together.
Exactly, yeah.
The rest of the world put together, and quite possibly do, but they are being largely, that market is largely being serviced by domestic Chinese manufacturing.
Yeah. Tim Perry does make the point that CAD and CNC are having an impact on you know, the breadth and speed of releases these days. I think that there is a certain truth to that, but it still takes investment to do these things. You know, if it was that easy, everybody would be doing it, and you know, it's still a major investment to do an injection molded steel tool. I know the prices have come down considerably, but it's still, you know, you need, you know, your boxes, your instructions, your decals. I'm actually reminded of, am I going to get into trouble for this? No, they're all sat in the control room shaking their heads. This is going back over 30 years ago. I've probably still got the advert somewhere. You're going to have to forgive me. My chair has yet again shrunk, and I've kind of sank down a bit. I'm a bit like the guy on the Far Show who does the sport with his little desk at the end. There was an advert in one of the model magazines for this new range of kits that were coming out. I think they were vac forms, and they were described as high quality vac forms. Okay, yeah, good, right, okay, with white metal and resin pieces. Fantastic, you got my attention. Will include water slide decals. Yes, please.
This sounds like a whole kit.
It sounds like a whole kit, and they would describe, you know, they really big themselves up as being, you know, this exceptional kind of product. And then I saw one. I don't know where to start. What single word could I use which would sum up the experience? That single word would be hopeless. That was it.
And are we going to get to learn who this was? Or?
I've forgotten who they were. They've long gone. Because they didn't, trust me, they didn't last very long because their products were hopeless. It really was, you know, lots of ambition, but you know. I mean, the decals were, how can you describe them? I would say they were printed on an inkjet, but inkjets hadn't been invented by then. They everything that could have been wrong about them was wrong. Colors, proportions, lettering styles, you know, sizes. It made you wonder why somebody went to all that trouble to invest time and money and effort into releasing something which, you know,
yeah. And I think these days, like Tim said, with CAD changing the scene and everything, everybody's having a go as well. Everybody can have a go, but few stay the course. And it's a conversation that I've had with Mike Reeves. You know, Mike's turned his into a long running, viable business, and a brilliant one at that. Various people, and again, I mean, I'm not singling out the United States for any particular reason, other than that's where a lot of this, you know, over the last decade or 15 years, we've had some fantastic products from the United States, but they've literally been a flash in the pan. They've been, you've been able to get them for a month or two, and then something changes in the producer's life, or something else happens, and then they just disappear. And this stuff that was, what people were screaming from the rooftops about a month ago is suddenly completely unavailable again. You know, and if that's just unavailable, the company has gone, effectively, because everybody's having a go.
I do seem to remember about 10 years ago was the promise of an injection molded Slingsby glider from a British manufacturer, but
I can't remember.
Never happened. It never happened, which was a shame, because I'm sure it would have been brilliant. But
we're waiting for the comment now, aren't we?
We'll wait for the comment. Wait for the comment. But yeah, it's just weird that now we have a smaller market, but we just have an eye-watering number of kits being released now. And
do we have a smaller market, or is it just shifted?
No,
I haven't seen any really figures saying that it's a smaller market. I've never seen any convincing figures one way or the other.
I have.
I don't. But Airfix are constantly telling us, they can't keep up.
Yeah, that's relative
to the smaller market.
Yeah, that's relative to what the market is today. But if you go back and actually look at, say, some of the numbers Frog was shifting of some of their kits back in the early 1970s, it's eye-wateringly huge amounts of kits, and it was the same pretty much for the Airfixes and Revels of that time. So what you're getting is now you've got a smaller market, that's for sure. You've got a smaller market by default of the fact that there just aren't there aren't the same number of model shops, there aren't the same number of kind of retail outlets and other things like that. You haven't got your Woolworths and your people like that carrying kits these days. But what you do have is you have a more highly organized kind of market out there now of customers, and you have manufacturers being able to release kits to production runs that are more niche, they are more suited, they're more bespoke. That's the word I'm looking for, bespoke. So, this is why we're getting all these kits coming out now, is because, it's literally they're targeting exactly the markets they know they're going to be selling into.
Right into the specific niche.
Yeah, precisely. It's like, for example, this week, it's like, take a company like Round 2. Round 2 pretty much have cornered the market for the injection molded sci-fi stuff now. So that they know their market. They know their market, that they're able to invest in the licenses to do brand new Space 1999 stuff. So they have done a beautiful Eagle transporter. They have done a Hawk spaceship. They've now done, very exciting this, they're now going to be bringing out 1-to-1 scale plastic injection molded kit replicas of the stun gun and the combat.
I saw that earlier. Yeah.
You know, I'm only this far away now from actually going out and getting a replica Moonbase Alpha kind of uniform, don't you? It's that. That's it.
No, wouldn't look right with braces.
That's true. I tell you what, though, it was at the height of the pandemic last year. I was so tempted to go out and get a Star Trek Next Generation tunic and go and do all my shopping as Captain Picard. You know, it was shave the old head and just walk around a little. You know, so, just make it so. And but I didn't in the end because I did in the end. You know why? Because I saw how much the tunics were, and I was like, no, we ain't doing that. But no,
well,
seriously,
I didn't in the end because I sobered up.
There was that as well. But no, the thing is you've got companies now who absolutely have their market. They know their market. Round two, no, they can invest in, the tools for these Space 1999 prop replicas, essentially, and they'll know they'll sell them.
Yeah.
If that was Revell or Tamiya or whoever, they don't know because they don't know whether their market is going to be interested in that kind of thing. And this comes down to the other thing that you often get is, people saying, why doesn't Company X do these kind of products? Well, you look at why doesn't Tamiya, for example, they don't do 72nd scale armor. You think if they went into that market, they'd absolutely nail it, wouldn't they? But they don't. And they do 48,
but they're not interested.
So they're not interested because I think they perceive their actual core market isn't interested either. Andy Hills makes a comment here. It says, if you went to Bachmann Commission the never before done loco, you committed to 1,500 and it was £500,000. £500,000 exactly. Yeah, it's a lot of money. Mike Reeves also makes a comment. Social media has made a huge difference to small manufacturers. Well, Mike, this goes back to the point I've often made in written articles, and that is, if you look at the way the hobby has gone like that in recent years, I'd probably say the last 25 years. If you look at that coincides also with the explosion from about 1996 onwards of people being able to get online.
Yeah.
And so what you've had these two things working in parallel. We are one of the few pastimes out there that hasn't been affected by piracy in terms of the way film is affected by online piracy, music is affected by online piracy, books are affected by online piracy. What you can't do is you can't stick that on on Napster and download it. So it's a physical product, and therefore the technology has created stronger communities.
I will say resin manufacturers are having a real nightmare with recasters, aren't they?
Well, there is that, yeah, but that's because it is relatively easy to do. It is not relatively easy to do an entire.
No, it's not relatively easy to pirate a kit.
Yeah, but no, it's
the advent of the internet, and as we've progressed through news groups to forums to social media, it's no longer. It might be a solitary pursuit in terms of we tend to sit alone in our rooms and do it, but it's far more social in terms of the overall hobby. The idea 20 years ago that we could sit on here and chat with somebody in Arizona live. We just wouldn't have considered it. It was as close to magic as it got, wasn't it? And now we just don't think about it now.
Yeah, I think I wrote in one of the op-eds for MAI about how, this is going back to the 1980s. Mike McAvoy wrote a tale piece in Sam where it was something about somebody was offering a program of British military serials on a floppy disk, and he said something about that he really doesn't see at the moment how computers will ever take over when it comes to research. And it's like, yeah, exactly, because isn't that the irony? I mean, I still like buying books. I still like the tactile, experience of buying and reading books. But I remember Dave Fleming will remember this. I once jokingly said to him about, well, you can't exactly kind of take your you know, you can't exactly take your Mac into the toilet and and
Lovely
read up
help.
and and then they invented iPads, and which is certainly where World of Tanks gets played a lot, but we'll skirt over that. Well, that's the World of Tanks sponsorship gone out the window there. They know where people play their games. Come on.
That's the World of Tanks sponsorship gone down the Thunderbox.
No, they know their market. But no, it's just amazing how that throwaway remark by Mike that computers will never kind of succeed the book when it comes to research. It's something like that anyway.
Well, I mean, I saw an article, and I think it was somebody had sort of scanned an article from, I think it was the Daily Mail, I think, to be fair, but
not a newspaper,
but from the year 2000, where and the headline was experts claim internet may be just a passing
fad. Yeah,
it's just like not so much, and it's here to stay, and it's completely changed the way people buy. Their hobby now. I mean, most of the time, I don't look where something I order from eBay comes from. I don't care. That's eBay's problem, not mine. Once I've ordered it, and most of the time, if I'm ordering stuff from Andy Antics, it's I'll send him a direct message on Facebook Messenger. Have you got such and such? Yes. Well, throw one my way. I'll give you a ring and pay you. And it's kind of, it's gone down to that kind of level where I can almost browse remotely. It's led to the decimation of town centres, but that's just the way. Supermarkets led to the decimation of grocers and butchers and fishmongers 50 years ago.
Yeah,
that's just progress.
But you see, Andy, and a bit like the guys and girls at Froome and Jadlam have been very savvy in maintaining, bricks and mortar with a very strong online presence of making sure that, that they're not eschewing, not relying on one and not the other. You have to sell on all fronts these days.
I don't think, I think the majority of internet focused model companies these days started out as internet focused model companies. Yeah. I don't think you've got many that have ditched bricks and mortar.
No,
have gone to.
No, what I'm saying is
you've got people like Andy and Jadlam who have got both and have focused on both.
The savvy bricks and mortar model shops have realised that that the online presence isn't just a sideline; it is as important as the bricks and mortar side as well.
It's fundamental.
Yeah. Although, got to be said, and in fact, Mr. Farmer, when I was chatting tonight, rather disappointing. He didn't ask me to pop up to town. There's a job for me in the fire escape trade, but it never is with him. There's people sitting there. What's he talking about now? Google it. We were, he was saying about, might have a trip to, hopefully at some stage have a return trip to the Tank Museum. Got to be said, Tank Museum, that's gone from being just a kind of just a gift shop,
adjunct to the museum, to actually being a proper,
fully functioning model shop there. Yeah, it's
with resin accessories and things like that. They've really embraced that market, haven't they?
Yeah, it's quite. The last time I was there, which admittedly was about 18 months ago, but I've seen that shop really kind of grow now, and I was really kind of knocked out that this, they really are taking it to another level in terms of as a museum shop. And as I say, it is a fully functioning model shop for armor modelers.
Yeah. So I can remember when I, going 20, 25 years ago, going to the Tank Museum, and it was a small gift shop with a couple of racks of Tamiya kits, some Tamiya paint, and that was your lot. And then when you, Andy, and I went there a couple of years ago, just coming up 2 years ago now, it's the first time I've been there for quite a long time, and I was absolutely gobsmacked.
You forgot Tim; he was there as well.
Oh, of course, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, he was the one who bought us teas.
Sorry, Tim. But yeah, it was just, I remember that because as I was in the car park afterwards, somebody phoned me to offer me a job, if you remember.
I did, yes. But not in the fire escape trade, which was rather disappointing. No.
But no, I was absolutely gobsmacked. Not just by the how big it was now, but by the range they were, the range of stuff they had, and the reference section has just become out of this world.
Yeah.
Just a completely different, and sometimes it's easy to forget that that's like 35 minutes away from me.
Yeah, lucky old you. I was just thinking actually that. Yeah, that's 35 minutes away from you. And also that lovely little emporium just outside Dorchester with the fantastic tea room with all the handmade cakes. That's just about 30 minutes from you. It's
Yeah. I live in a good part of the country.
Yeah, but then again, the Blitz Tea Rooms is 30 minutes away from me, so which is where we will be doing a live show at some stage. I am negotiating with them. Fingers crossed, we will be able to do a live show there.
A live show.
Yeah, live show there. Johan Olivier, the actor, says, "May I take the opportunity to brag with one of the best South African hobby shops, www.jixhobbies.co.za." You may, Johan. You may.
You may, and consider them advertised.
Yeah, there we go. No, well, this is the thing. You know, again, it is staggering how many bricks and mortars model shops there are in Dublin.
Yeah.
Apparently, quite a few. We say this a while back about actually going on a post-pandemic. It's actually going on a model shop tour of Dublin.
Yeah,
we did. Yeah. Yes,
model shops and pubs.
Do they have pubs in Dublin?
I believe they've got one, maybe two, something like that.
I think of Dublin. I don't think of it as a place with bars and pubs and things for some reason. But
you don't think of the Irish as drinkers, do you? It's not just something that occurs to you.
I we're on dodgy ground there, and I will have to consult with my family in Cork on that one. But yes, it's I think the interesting modelling company Dublin Model Tour. That's what you need.
I was waiting for Jerry to say something. I was waiting for Jerry to.
Jerry Doyle says there's one or two of each. There we go. Yeah, that's what we need. That's what we need the t-shirts for. The ones modeler input required. You know, come on, keyboard. I want to design this.
I think we discussed going over to the Irish Model Show, hadn't we? But,
did, yes.
Pandemic kind of, because I think Spencer's been there and had a mighty riotous time.
Only just survived, yes.
Yeah, sounds like my kind of show. Yeah.
And again, Spencer only just survives the the trip to the Iron Bridge, the little pub in Iron Bridge, if you remember. Do you not remember that? A couple of Telfords ago, we were eating in that pub in Iron Bridge, and I think a lot of the IPMS Island lads were there, and yeah.
Oh dear. They like to drink, bless them.
See, now I'm kind of misting up a bit here because it's like, model shows, eh? You know, just all that, and
Bill House, yeah.
did actually come up with that wonderful line at Telford a few years ago where we were sat at a table and I said an Englishman, an Irishman, a Scotsman, and a Welshman were all sat around a table, and you, Spencer, Joe Maxwell, and looked at me thinking, "Where's this going?" And I just said, "I'm from England, you're from Scotland, he's from Wales, and you're from Ireland." And it was, yeah, there we go. It was an observation.
Observational humour.
Observational humour, just without the humour part. Right.
Oh,
any other business?
Already?
Yeah, I'm afraid we're running out of time here.
Lord.
Yeah, here we go. Jerry Doyle has meant the Mill House.
Yes.
Yeah, Jerry, what happened in the Mill House stays in the Mill House. Exactly. Any other business?
I don't. I'm sure I had something that I wanted to say tonight, and it's completely passed me by.
We were going to talk about our favourite model of the year so far.
Yeah, and then I realised with horror that I appear to have completed precisely 3 models this year, which is pathetic.
All right. All right. No. Okay. So out of the 3 that you have managed to complete this year in lightweight, which of those 3 is the one that you look back and you think that was pretty awesome? This year, preferably.
Yeah. I'd have to say probably that that Vexin Mirage 3, the Models Fit Mirage 3 I completed back in May. It just came together and looked exactly. I talk about it quite often, but when you finish a model and it matches the mental image you had of the model.
Yep, I'm just going to Drew's models page. This is how well we kind of like we rehearse for tonight. In as much as about half an hour before the show, Drew messaged me and says, "There's a show tonight." I'm like, "Oh yeah, there is." Let me just have a quick look. I'm just searching Mirage. Let's have a look. Scroll down. Is that the desert one?
Yes.
Desert one. Here we go. Right, here we go. Let's just share screen. That's right. Oh, don't worry, mate. I got this. I'm on this.
Clearly, you're all like a rash.
Here we go. There we go. That's the one.
There we go. Yeah, it just exactly matched the mental image I had of it before I started it, and I love it when that happens, and something comes together that well. Yes, it's nice, isn't it? I'm quite proud of that.
I do love Mirage 3s. I just think they are aerodynamically pure.
And I have to say, the MiG-25 that I built over Christmas and finished sort of 2-3 weeks into the new year, the airbrushing went from being sort of okay to when I tidied it up and it came out, and I'm really, really happy with the way the freehand airbrushing finally came together at that MiG-25 as well. So
now I take it on this one. That's blue tacked, is it?
Yes.
Yeah,
that's all blue tacked.
Yeah, no, that does look fabulous. It has to be said. Just French aircraft. Ooh la la, just fabulous, isn't it?
And more to the point of this model split. Look at it.
It's
just glorious.
Now mine. People are just going to be utterly shocked when they find out what my favorite model that I've built this year so far is. Well, of course, it's mini art, isn't it? And
that's beautiful as that one, really. Yeah.
No, thank you. Now,
really,
as you said about it turning out exactly how you have pictured it. That turned out exactly how I pictured it. It turned out exactly how I wanted it to look, which essentially was to look like the mini art box art.
The dust work or the mud in those treads is just phenomenally well done. Really is.
Thank you. Do you know what? That's the one part I don't like, because I couldn't get it right on that. I
think it's one of those situations, John, where you're too close to the subject quite often.
Possibly.
And second guessing it, because to me that looks. That is just absolutely fantastic.
Thank you. I'll take that as a compliment.
Well, it's intended to be, so
that's very kind of you. That was my first time building something by mini art, actual proper kit rather than figures and things. And I was impressed by just the quality of the package throughout the box, the instructions, the decals, the actual molding of the kit, the fit, everything. It just, I'm sat there thinking, why have I not built more mini art kits before? It really was just a first class experience. And it's I built that Hella tractor last year for the same client, ironically, as a birthday present. And so to build this one this year and, put into effect all the weathering ideas I had, this kind of layering of weathering and, stealing techniques and things from Martin Kovac, which we all do. This for me this year was just that one kit where I think I I want to go back and build on something else like this again.
Well, Mini Art have certainly given you the opportunity, haven't they, with enough sort of offbeat.
Well, you know, I often say I could quite happily, you know, spend the rest of my modelling days building everything from the Tamiya military miniatures range.
Yeah.
Same applies to Mini Art. I could quite happily sit there and just build Mini Art 24/7. It's because there's just so many odd things that they do that you look at it. And think,
they've done so much sort of off, which is off the wall, but common stuff. That tractor will have been made in tens of thousands.
You
know, it's not a rare subject in its own right. It's just that nobody would ever think to kit it. And then along comes Mini Art, and you've got that, which is just beautiful.
Land's Bulldog, and they've done variations on it as well. Mike Williams says, model of the year so far for me is the Airfix Beaufort. Indeed, Mike's Airfix Beaufort, if you've not seen that, is utterly fantastic. The weathering on that is spot on, absolutely brilliant.
Yeah,
you know, and again, it's one of those things, you know, it's like you see somebody build something, and then it's kind of like you see somebody build something and you're so inspired by how, you know, what they've done. You think, I want to emulate that, or I want to do something on that level. I think, or sometimes you see somebody build something, you think, oh God, really? No, I've got to build that better. The number of times you and I have sat watching, we won't say what the channels were, but we watch YouTube channels and we are so incensed about how these models are turning out that it's like let's go into the workshop and build that kit so that
more than once we've been chatting about something and looking at something, and one of us has gone off and immediately ordered that model. It's like, no, we want to build it, but it's like in that flash of anger in the moment, we go off and order the model with the intention of building it.
It's like I have to blot that out of my memory now by actually putting my mouth where my ego is and actually building it better than what I've just watched it being horrifically kind of, you know, butchered on screen. Yeah, exactly. Which butchering. That's me and those cutters at Telford, and you just go and buy a pair of these, son. I'm like, what's wrong with these hacking tools? Go and buy a pair of these, and I did. And you know what? You were right, everybody. Occasionally he is right, but he was right. Best thing I ever bought for my waddling workbench, despite cutters. Right, definitely. Any other business?
No, I don't think so.
All right, good. Right, so I'm going to have some food then. Right, well, we will be back on Sunday with a poster because we'll have a new keyboard by then. You back on Sunday?
Well, I am available, certainly.
Okay. We'll try and do some news.
Okay, I'll have a think about
it.
See where you
depends whether I have another migraine or not. We will do some news stuff because there has been quite a few news things have arrived this week. Do you see that ICM are doing one? You know, they're doing like those large scale figures.
Yeah,
that they're actually doing a British policeman, a Bobby. Which, I thought build one of those for you, give it to you for Christmas. So
you're all right. That's fine.
That's fine. Okay.
You'll probably only pick it apart.
You would, yeah. It's like those. They didn't have those uniform buttons on those uniforms when I was a copper.
I was a copper, son.
But no, there are some new stuff. Obviously, we're going to talk a bit more about the round 2 Space 1999 stuff. Some new stuff from Mini Art. There's loads of stuff. So we'll be back Sunday with news.
An actual plan.
An actual plan for a change. And I'll remember to run. I was so ill on Sunday, I forgot to run the right closing credits. We do have the right closing credits for tonight. So anyway, that's the end of tonight's Freeform Jazz Midweek Live, which is what it always is anyway. We'll be back on Sunday. In the meantime, stay safe, stay out of trouble, go and get the jab if you haven't had it, because it's fab. Obviously, it's good fun. We'll see you on Sunday. So for myself, sorry.
See you on Sunday.
Yeah, see you on Sunday. So stay safe.
See you later.
Bye.